Hi, Chris Geller here again, back with Pinnacle Training Consulting Systems. So, we've gone through a bit of some spinal anatomy, a little bit of some muscles. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper into the three layers of the spinal anatomy or musculature, the inner layer, the middle layer, and the outer layer. So the inner layer, when I say inner, I'm talking about really deep, and that's going to consider the discs, the annulus on the front, annulus on the back, the anterior longitudinal ligament, which is the ligament on the front of the spine, the posterior longitudinal ligament, which is on the back of the side. That's the inner part of the spine. That's inside here that we really can't see and touch as therapists and as trainers, but you can visualize. The middle layer is the muscles on the outside that are really going to be two primary. That is multifidus. Multifidus is a muscle, again, in your manual you'll see there's a lot of research on injuries that it weakens with chronic back pain. Its job is to stabilize. It's a really thin muscle. It goes all the way from the tailbone and all the way to the spine, actually to the actual below row of the cranium here. The second is quadratus lumborum. I mentioned earlier, it goes from the 12th rib, come down here, and attaches on top of the ilium, and it does hip hiking. So when this muscle is typically tight and weak. If someone has trigger points on the inside of the QL, when I say inside towards the spine, that can actually cause pain that goes in the buttock area. And someone can have referred pain, whether it be fuzzy or dull, and maybe even sharp and annoying. If they have trigger points on the outer part of the QL, when I say outer, meaning towards laterally, that can cause pain in the outer glute, in the glute med, and to the outer hamstring, can cause fuzziness, annoyance, and really pain. So in the next section, I'll talk you how to assess the QL and look at that and look at muscle length, which is really important. And the outer layer, we talk about the outer layer, we're talking more about the obliques. The obliques, again, wrap around on the anterior aspect of the abdominal wall. You have the transverse abdominis, which again is one of those primary stabilizers. As in the manual, you'll see, I mentioned Paul Hodges was a physio from Australia that found that the transverse abdominis, when someone has a low back injury, that muscle almost shuts off. When I say shuts off, is that the brain doesn't recognize, hey, I need to work, I need to stabilize here as part of the four horsemen. So the obliques, you've got your transverse abdominis, and then you've also got some of these outer glute musculatures and outer layer here, and the erector spinae, which is really the whole group of the spine, from the tailbone up to the cranium, okay? Those are considered the inner. Inner, remember again, is the inside of the spine, the discs, the nerve roots, the annulus, the facets, those are all inside from the front to back. The middle layer, again, is going to be multifidus and QL, so those are the muscles that stabilize on the posterior or back side of the spine. And then the outer layer is considerably the obliques, transverse, and then the erector spinae, and that fascia that really kind of wraps around into the pelvis. The one thing I also want to take home before we show how to assess the QL and multifidus is that everyone member is built differently. You have different shapes and sizes. And the thing about you got to remember, whether someone has a forward tilt or a posterior pelvic tilt of their pelvis, you got to remember what neutral means. And neutral means a balance between here and that the pelvises are symmetrical. So when I say symmetrical, if someone has an elevated hip like this, you can see that this QL muscle on the right is made short and tight. Or conversely, if someone's standing like this, that this left QL, if it's elevated, is going to be short and tight here, which does what to the glute? It's going to make the glute weaker, it's going to make it shorter, it's also going to affect the piriformis. So remember just not only the muscles around here, but when someone's position, someone's structure, how they stand statically, before you do movement assessment, you've got to look at what's going on there. It can be huge to anticipate their movement pattern, whether it be lunges, squats, triangle lunges, diagonal lunges, etc., okay? So something to think about and take home from this is just remember what is normal and what's considered abnormal, just something to think about. In the next section, we're going to talk about looking at the QL when I say QL, is how to assess the QL and how to look at the multificity accordingly. All right?